Awesome. So I know I haven't been on this podcast for a while, and that's because I've been on vacation or a long trip. And so we started with Japan, Tokyo, and Tokyo was crazy. We went, and uh, the amount of people there, the food, everything was awesome. And so if you haven't been to Tokyo, then highly recommend. Um, we went from Tokyo to Singapore. And Singapore, the airport is absolutely crazy. It's like an amusement park. And so, again, if you haven't been there, I would highly, highly recommend. And now I'm in Sydney, which is home. And so I'm recording this from home, and it's really good to visit home. It's quite nice during this time of year. So, three places where if you haven't been, I would highly, highly recommend to go. But so today, I want to dive into mobility and how important it is and how to actually gain mobility, because this is something that I've struggled with my whole career, and I feel like I've started to figure it out just a little bit now, um, which is kind of funny because I'm technically retired now, but it's like I finally figured out how to increase the flexibility and the mobility in my body. And it's thanks to this new style of training that I'm going to explain to you guys. And you guys are actually getting a treat because I created a guide and a program which is going to be exclusive for my email subscribers, but you guys are going to get them today here. And so that's what I want to dive into today. So let's get straight into it. So my whole career, I underestimated the importance of mobility. I focused all of my energy into throwing and lifting, and I never really worked on my mobility. And this is something that eventually caught up to me. In 2021, I badly herniated my disc back squatting. If you see the picture, you can see like the spines and the discs. And you can see one just absolutely protruding out. And so my disc I think it just exploded. I was in back squats. I was going, I want to say too heavy because it wasn't like something that I haven't done before, but I was going pretty heavy. It was like 405. So 4 plates on each side, and I was trying to rep it out. And I think the disc just gave out. And so what happened was the herniated disc was pressing on my sciatica nerve. Hopefully I said that right, but it was pressing on it so hard that it was sending just like excruciating pain down my leg. And any kind of pressure on that leg was just like excruciating, so painful. It's the most pain I've ever felt in my life. And so the pain was so bad that I was bedbound. I couldn't walk. And if I did walk, then I'd have to have crutches and like hop on one leg. And so it was really, really bad. I remember like being in the bed and trying to get up to go pee. And that was like a mission because, walking that distance was so difficult for me at the time. But anyway, I got surgery on it. I got a microdiscectomy, and that relieved like 99% of the pain. I was like pain free. But the thing was, like, I lost so much mobility, like a ton of mobility. And I didn't really think much of it at the time. I was like, yeah, I just had surgery. That's normal. Like, you're going to lose mobility after you have surgery. That's normal. But like, I did like 2 years of rehab exercises, and I was playing at this point. I rehabbed it all, and then I kept getting told, yeah, the mobility would come back. Just keep doing the rehab exercises, keep doing that. But the thing was, I never came back, and it felt like I was stretching every single day, and I was making backwards progress. And the rehab exercises that I was programmed was like core strengthening exercises. Like, all right, get your core stronger, work on your abs. Let's get all of that supporting structure strong. and then that will protect your back. And in theory, that sounds it sounds good and all, but it wasn't translating to increased mobility, or I didn't feel safe with my back. I remember one time I felt so tight, and I tried to reach for my toes with straight legs. And normally people are going to get pretty close. They might not actually get to their toes, but I couldn't even get to my knees with straight legs. That's how tight I was. That's how immobile I was. And I was like, man, this is really, really bad. And as my mobility regressed, my velocity on the mound went down as well. And at my worst, this was actually early this year, my mobility got to my worst, where I couldn't even touch my knees with straight legs. I was like throwing in the high 80s, like some in the mid 80s, because my body just wasn't able to get into the elite positions to throw in the low mid 90s. And so that was a big struggle. But yeah, it just highlights the importance of mobility. It's not the sexy thing to work on. The sexy things are throwing, lifting, all of that stuff. But the thing that I realize is that mobility becomes so much more important the higher level you get. And so, it might not be as important for a guy who's throwing 85 and trying to get to 90. I believe that for that, it's more, okay, like get on a structured lifting, throwing program, and then you'll get pretty close to 90. But going beyond that, getting from like the low 90s to the mid 90s to the upper 90s and beyond, mobility becomes super, super important. And it's because like your body needs to be able to get into these elite positions to develop that elite velocity. And so one of the regrets that I have throughout my career is not focusing on that every single day and prioritizing that because I really didn't care about it too much. But yeah, okay. So I talked a lot about the back, but a lot of these stuff and the new style of training that I'm going to explain to you today that really helped me and made me more mobile than I've ever been before applies to all body parts. It's not just the back, but I just give the back as an example because I had such limited mobility in the back. But yeah, let's dive into exactly what I did and the new style of training and how I came across it as well. So I had just retired. My mobility was the worst it had ever been. Again, I couldn't even touch my knees with straight legs. Like my body just felt like painful and tight. And I was like, geez, I got to do something. And I listened to a ton of podcasts. And one of my favorite podcasts is called Modern Wisdom. And I came across one of the episodes with a guy called Knees Over Toes Guy. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I listened to that podcast. And the thing that really struck me was that Knees Over Toes Guy, he is super flexible. If you some of you are going to know him. He's big on YouTube, Instagram. But he's super mobile. He's super flexible. He's a great athlete. He can dunk with ease. He's in his mid-30s now. And the one thing that struck me was that he said he didn't develop that flexibility by stretching. He doesn't really stretch at all. It was just the type of lifting that he does that increased that mobility. I was like, damn, okay, like let me look into that, because that's a concept that I've never heard before, where it's like I was always thinking like, okay, if I want to increase flexibility and mobility, I got to do like stretching, and I got to go and stretch, static stretching, dynamic stretching. I got to rep those out, And that's kind of what I was doing before, but I wasn't seeing the progress that I wanted to. And so I dove into the Knees Over Toes guys' concepts on how to increase flexibility. And what he describes is what's called stretch strength. And so what's stretch strength? It's kind of like a hard thing to say. But stretch strength is when you train your muscles through a full range of motion with weight. And so an example is the ATG front split squat. And so it's a very distinct movement, but it's pretty much you're in a split squat, and then instead of stopping where your front knee is like 90 degrees, you want to try to get your hamstring to touch your calf on the front leg. And what that does is that it puts you into a position where it stretches your hip flexor on the back leg like crazy. And so the theory behind it is that you're putting your body into like a stretched position, but the weights are pulling you into deeper and deeper positions and ranges where you wouldn't have access to that without the weight. And so it's a little bit hard on a podcast format, but if I could show like a demonstration, it's you're in a split squat position, and you go down as far as you can, and you want to keep the back leg as straight as possible. And if you do that, you're going to feel a deep, deep stretch in your hip flexor, and you'll kind of know what I mean. Another one is like the Cossack squat. And so if you've ever done a Cossack squat, you know that there's like a deep stretch in the inner thighs. And you go deep, 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 and the weights just keep pulling you into deeper positions. And so this is kind of what's called the stretch strength training, is where you're strengthening the body through full range stretched positions. And the weight is pulling you into deeper, deeper positions, and your body is getting strong in those full range motions. And so I thought this was a really, really interesting concept, and I put it to practice. And for 3 months, I did a bunch of these exercises. And I'll break down some of these exercises in a second. But what actually happened was I went from not being able to touch my knees with straight legs to now I have straight legs and I can get my knuckles to the floor, which is like better range than most people have. And so after seeing these results, I was like, okay, like there's definitely something to this. I need to keep doing this. This is the most mobile I have ever been. It's worked way better than stretching. And so I just keep diving deeper and deeper. And I keep doing these exercises. And now I feel like I have the best mobility of my life. And so I want to dive into a little bit, a couple exercises that you can try. Some of my favorites. And it is a little bit difficult, but if you type it into if I describe the exercise and you type it into YouTube, you can see the movements. And so you can look that up if I don't describe it enough. But yeah, let's dive into some of those. So a note before I dive into some of the exercises. These exercises are best with like a 1 to 5 second pause at the stretch. And so, we just talked about the ATG split squat, the full range split squat. When you're in that deep stretch position, you want to hold that for 1 to 5 seconds. My sweet spot is like 2 to 3 seconds. I'm in that stretch position and I kind of pulse. I'm like pulsing a little bit just so I can get a little bit deeper and deeper into that position. And you're really going to feel those weights pull you into a range that you wouldn't have access to without those weights. Another note is that you can't go too heavy with these. There's a sweet spot to where if you feel like your muscles are resisting the stretch, like it's not allowing the stretch to happen, then you're going too heavy. You want it to be like the stretch is happening and the weight is just pulling you into a deeper position. And it's kind of like a relaxing into that position type thing. It's not like a resisting, like it shouldn't feel like a strength exercise. It should feel like a stretch. And so I would really start super light with these until you get comfortable with the exercises, and then you can start adding weight and adding weight. And as you add weight, you're going to be able to get into deeper positions and get stronger and stronger in those stretch positions, which are going to make you more mobile. And so those are the two disclaimers or notes on these exercises. Again, this is for mobility. It's not for strength. Don't use these as a strength program, because you still need to do your like squats, deadlifts, stuff like that to add that strength, add that horsepower. This is just purely for mobility. And so let's dive into a couple exercises. So we've already explained this ATG split squat. The ATG split squat is, if you do it, you're going to feel it. It's going to be a crazy stretch in your hip flexors. And the hip flexors are something that gets neglected a lot, and they tighten up because these days we're sitting a lot. And so when we're sitting, we're in that, the hip flexor is in a flex position. And so that just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And so loosening that up was huge for me in my back, because the hip flexor connects to part of the lower back, and it pulled my pelvis into a position where it was hurting my back. And so when I loosened that up, I felt a lot of relief in my lower back. So ATG split squat, there's a bunch of different benefits, but for this episode and for mobility specifically, it's mostly for the hip flexor. So I'll do those. That's a really good exercise. Another one we already talked about is the Cossack squat. And so for the inner thighs, another one that's crucial for pitches, you want to go down deep and then just let the weight pull you into that stretch and hold it for 1 to 5 seconds and then come up. And so you want a weight that's heavy enough for you to feel like it's pulling you into a stretch, but not so much where it's like you can't even get into the right stretch position. That one's a huge one. The next one is a Jefferson curl. And so there's a little bit of a disclaimer on this one. Do not go heavy. I've been doing these for a couple months now, and I still don't go heavier than the bar itself. And so the Jefferson's curl, it looks scary. It's a deadlift, but once you get, so it's a deadlift with straight legs. And so once you get into the end range of your deadlift, as far as you can with straight legs, with a straight back, you relax your back and you curl it. And so you get as deep as you can with, as low as you can with the bar. I don't know if I explained that right, but if you look up Jefferson curl, this was one of the biggest exercises that helped my back, because it decompresses the spine. It opens up each segment of the spine, and it improves the mobility that way. And so the weight that you're carrying in your hands, again, pull you into deeper positions that you wouldn't be able to without the weight. If you have straight legs and you just try to touch your toes, you feel a stretch, but if you have even just 10 pounds on each side, it's a completely different feel. You get way more of a stretch in the hamstrings, in the back, and everything else. And so look it up, Jefferson curl. You want to research exactly how you do it, because it is a little bit of a complex exercise and you want to be able to do it properly. But yeah, this exercise goes against conventional wisdom of, never round your back. This one is, all right, we're rounding our back and we're strengthening and stretching in those positions. And this is something that you definitely have to work towards. Maybe you start with 2 pounds, super lightweight, and then go from there. But yeah, definitely don't go heavy with this one, but really, really good exercise for the spine and improving mobility in the spine. Okay, next one. The next one is a QL raise. So there's this thing called the QL muscle. It's on the side of our lower back. And it's a muscle that gets neglected a lot. We talk a lot about the obliques, but there's this thing called QL on the side that can get really, really tight. And so this is an exercise for that. And basically what you do is you go to a hyperextension machine, like a back extension machine, where, you have the padding on your stomach, and then you go down and up, and it's like working a lower back. But what you do is you go on the side. And so the padding is on the side of your hip, and then you put your arm on your head and you go as far down as possible. And when you do this, you feel a crazy stretch on the side of your like your obliques and then the QL muscle. So like the side of your core. And again, this is something that you want to ease into, because you don't want to overload the spine you don't want to mess with the spine or anything like that. And so as you gain confidence with it, you can start increasing weight. Right now, I've been doing it for like a couple months now, probably like 4 or 5 months, and I can do, like 50, 60 pounds with this. But I would definitely not start there. I would start with 5 pounds, 10 pounds, and really, really take your time increasing the weight, because you don't want to mess with the spine. A little bit of aggravation in the spine and you're out for a couple months. So really take your time. But again, this isn't a strength exercise. It's a mobility exercise. So go down, really feel the stretch, let the weight pull you into deep positions, and then come back up slowly. This isn't going to be like some explosive exercise or anything like that. It's a slow tempo, pauses, take your time, feel the stretch kind of exercise. So that was the QL raise. QL. So the letter Q and the letter L, and then raise. All right, the next one is the dumbbell pullover. So this one's pretty straightforward. You lie on a bench. The bench is like here, and then you lie on it this way. So it's like a cross bench pullover. You lie on it, you grab a dumbbell straight above you, and then you bring it as far back as possible. This is with 2 arms. I'm just doing it with 1 because I have to carry the mic. But you bring as far as possible, and then you bring it back. And so this is opening up the chest. It's opening up the lats. It's opening up the upper back. If you do it, you're going to feel a crazy exercise. But what you want to do is here, hold it for 1 to 5 seconds, and then come back. The dumbbell pullover. You'll be able to see a lot of stuff on YouTube for that. That's a pretty straightforward exercise. All right, two more. The full range Romanian deadlift. Okay, so, we do RDLs all the time as baseball players, but we stop at our knees and then we come back up. Now, this one is a full range RDL. So instead of stopping at your knees, you want to go as deep as possible and let the weights pull you into a deep position. Again, I'm going to repeat that, but this is the point of the weight. It's to pull you into the deep positions, and it's not for like the strength adaptation. And so you want to go as deep as possible, as much range as you have, and then you want to hold it there and then come back up. And again, start light. You don't want to slap on 315 and do this straight away. But as you get stronger and stronger, there are guys who do this with 4 plates on each side, and they go deep, 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 and then come back up. And what that's doing is just opening up your hamstrings and your calves and like your glutes. So in that flexion position, it's just opening everything up. And this is something that I've been doing for a long time, and it feels crazy. It hits your ego a little bit because you really need to start light. I started at probably just the bar itself. And then now I'm working myself up. But like going into full range RDLs, it's something that's really opened up my hamstrings and my posterior chain. Something that I would highly recommend. All right, the last one is a seated good morning. And so you're sitting on a bench or anything like bench height. You sit there and legs are a little bit wider than shoulder width. Okay. And all you do is a good morning. So if you look it up, seated good morning, you'll be able to see a lot of stuff on that. But basically what you want to do is straight back, and you want to try to get your belly button to the bench, and you want to go as low as possible. And what this is doing is just opening up the inner thighs. So like the inside of your thighs is just deep stretch. If you do it correctly, you're going to feel deep stretch within the inner thighs, and it's just going to open those up. And so a lot of this is like, okay, I did a lot of these because my focus was on the lower back, and the lower back is like the center of all things. And so I think all players should really be focusing on the lower back and the core. And a lot of these exercises open up around the lower back. And so it's like, all right, we're going to open up the upper back with the dumbbell pullover. We're going to open up the inner thighs with the seated good morning and the Cossack squat. We're going to open up the front of the thigh with the ATG split squat. We're going to open up the hamstrings and the glutes and posterior chain with the RDL and stuff like that. So you want to open up all these little parts, and that allows your core to move the best it can, which is what leads to, added mobility and added performance as well. And so those are kind of the exercises that I would recommend to get started with. There are a ton more, but I don't want to keep listing out exercises because these are kind of like my favorites and the core ones that I feel like any athlete can just incorporate and get a lot of results really quickly. So, but yeah, I want to quickly go through like a sample program of how I would program these, and then we can wrap things up. But with the mobility program, the general concept is to work from the ground up, okay? And so you want to open up the calves, the hamstrings, and then your hips, and then your hip flexors, and then you go to like, you just want to go up, and then you can go like the QL and then the upper back. And so that's kind of like the concept that I use, is like open things up from the ground up. All right. And so how I would do this is I would start with a calf raise. I know we didn't talk about this, but a calf raise is another one. You want to do a calf raise where your calf is in a deep stretch position right here, and then full range up and down. Okay. This is with weight. And so again, 2 to 3 sets, 10 reps, 1 to 5 second pause at the stretch. And you're going to feel it the next day. If you do these properly, your calves are going to get really sore because it's probably not used to this type of stretch and stretch strength training. Okay, so I'll start with the calf raise, and then I'll go into the RDLs. Start light, go as deep as you can, come up. Again, 2 to 3 sets, 10 reps, 5 second pause at the stretch. Whatever really feels good. How long you want to pause at the bottom is up to you, but you want to go from like 3 to 5 seconds is a sweet spot that I found. Next, go into the seated good morning. And so you're on the bench, good morning, open up those inner thighs. And then go into the Jefferson curl. This is the one that opens up each segment of the spine. You're rounding your back and you're going as deep as possible with straight legs. Start light, do not go heavy. Don't go heavy on any of those, and really take your time adding weight with these. After you do the Jefferson curl, go into the ATG split squat. So now we're going to open up the hip flexors. do 2 to 3 sets of 10 reps. Then Cossack squat, dumbbell pullover, and then the QL raise. And so honestly, this is like the bulk of the things that I did to become more mobile than I've ever been before. I did these probably 3 times a week, and like I saw really, really good results. And so I'll just incorporate these into your strength program. If you do like a full body 3 times a week type thing, then that's easy. Just do these in front of your strength training, and then complete your strength training, and that's how you can incorporate it 3 times a week. Or if you do lower upper stuff like that, you can pretty much do it every workout day. And so as long as you're not going heavy and treating it more as a stretch mobility exercise, then you can complete these 4-5 times a week. The biggest mistake is to go too heavy, and so then your muscles need time to recover, and it's not getting the type of stretch and stimulus that we're looking for to gain that mobility. And so again, I know I keep repeating this, but it's not a strength exercise, it's for mobility. If you do want to use some of these exercises for strength, and people do, and there's something that I'm going to start doing, like you have to program them completely separate, because you can't be doing like these exercises for strength and then going into your strength training, because that's just overloading your body. And so I would say start light, start with these as a mobility exercise, do them before your lifting program, and then go from there. Really focus on the stretch and pausing in the stretch position. And so I think if you're able to do most of those exercises for consistent 3 to 5 times a week, you're going to see really, really great results. And I would really like to see if someone's consistent with this, see the results that they get, because it's something that really, really helped me, and I think it's going to help a lot of other players. And so if you do this, you're consistent with it, and you see some results, then message me on Twitter at GessnerJosh, and we can talk about how to progress from there. But for today, that's it. I'm going to wrap things up. It's the thing that made me the most mobile that I've ever been was stretch strength training. And what that is using weights to pull. It's like training where you use weights to pull you into deeper and deeper positions. And so we already talked about the exercises, but those are the exercises that I did. I did them 3 to 5 times a week, and I found really, really great results. And so, I think that's it for today. And again, if you do try this and you see some results, message me on Twitter. I would love to connect and see how we can progress and keep incorporating this style of training, because I don't see it in baseball at all. So I'll see you guys soon. See ya.